2, 3.
Lovely. Lovely.
Well.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Aaron,
My name is Daniel.
and today we are joined by a man who needs no introduction. He is, to us, well, actually to some, he needs an introduction. It is Mr. Albert Fuentes. Woo! Mr. Fuentes is a teacher. He was our old teacher.
He was.
At Cleveland High School,
He was a
Humanities
god.
Magnet.
Yes.
He teaches many subjects, which we'll all get into. But Mr. Fuentes, introduce yourself. How are you doing today?
Hello, good morning. Thank you for having me over, boys. It's nice to see you. It's nice to have some human interaction after the past year.
Yeah.
am I right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Anyway, yeah, I'm very happy to be here and excited to talk some stories.
Perfect.
Cool. All right, you want to start, Aaron?
We're just going to get right into it. So just, Mr. Fuentes, just give the audience some background on who you are, what you've been up to, how's your summer going?
Sure. Okay, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Albert Fuentes. I'm a teacher in LAUSD, specifically at Cleveland High School in the Humanities Magnet program. I've been teaching for about 8 years now, and I love it. I was lucky enough to get into a job that I thoroughly enjoy, and in that sense, it doesn't even feel like work.
Yeah.
And had you two as students, which is kind of a trip now to see
That is
you as,
true.
like,
It's
grown-ass
crazy.
men.
Yeah,
I'm not really a man, I'm not really. I don't think I matured these past 2 years.
you had a bar mitzvah. You're a man.
I did.
You had a bar mitzvah, and in the eyes of the law, you're a man. So
Exactly.
It's like I tell all the students, you turn 18, you go to county, not juvie anymore.
Yeah.
So watch out.
I've been there.
That's crazy to be 20. I don't know. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I just think about it. I'm like, damn, I'm 20
You're
years
in your
old.
20s.
I had like an existential crisis the other day. I was biking, and I was like,
Existential crisis.
what am I doing with my life?
Did you really?
Yeah.
Is that when you called me?
No. That was a few days ago.
Okay.
Yeah, Aaron called me the other day, and he's like, no, you called me yesterday while I was biking up a hill.
You called me, and then I called you because I missed the call and called you
All
back.
right, anyways.
Anyway. So, yeah, we both had Mr. Fuentes as he was our teacher.
And you said you were a core baby, right? You went to...
I was, yes. So I am a former student of the program in which I teach.
Yeah.
So I went there. I attended to it was a class of 2010.
Okay. So let's kind of get into, before we kind of get into, you as a teacher and, your specific areas of expertise, I have a personal story
Uh-oh.
I want to share. with
First of
Mr.
all, I just want to
Fuentes.
say I love your shirt.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you for dressing
It's
into
a
the
very
summer
nice
pod
shirt.
vibe.
I figure, yeah, I got to.
It's great. It's great. Dress to impress.
With the aesthetic. that's
Speaking
right.
about clean dress shirts,
God
back
almighty.
in
Good transition. That was a good transition.
I know. Back in 10th grade, Mr. Fuentes was at Cleveland, obviously as a teacher, and it was during nutrition, and I forgot who it was, but somebody had slime, just like slime. It was like people had slime. It was fun to play with.
If I can just interrupt you for a second, it was a fad. It was a thing.
Yeah, no, it was
for
definitely a thing.
A hot minute.
It was a thing
for about
and
a year.
Yeah, and this was bright pink slime, and we were playing with it at nutrition. And one thing we would do is we would throw the slime onto each other's clothing. Because it freaks you out, but for whatever reason, the slime would just come right off. Like it just peeled right off.
Yeah.
So it was just like you walk up to someone, throw the slime on, and then it would just come right off. So it's not a big deal. So then I'm walking to class, and I have a bit of slime, and I see Mr. Fuentes wearing a just completely brand new white shirt. So naturally, I throw the slime on his shirt, and you kind of freak out for a second, and then I go to take it off. And of course it doesn't come off.
Oh my god!
And it started stringing, and there were bits still on it. And I wasn't totally able to get it off. I think did it ever actually come out?
No, in fact, the stain was there for years.
You still have it?
No, I got rid of it. Who wants a stained white shirt?
Wow, that's
a memory.
That's actually really bad. I'm so
bad
sorry.
That's
Oh my
hilarious.
God.
Was that in nutrition or what?
We were walking down the hallway. It was right
Yeah.
after nutrition ended, and I just threw it on a shirt.
Yeah,
Hey, Fuentes,
it was during passing, and I remember I went from feeling very mildly amused to downright infuriated in
Yeah.
the span of a few seconds.
And it was on its back. So I remember you had me take a photo
That's
of your
terrible.
back so you
I
could
still
see what it
have
looked. It was bad.
I
It's
still
terrible. You go to your teacher, you throw
It
slime
was
on
bad.
him.
I was actually. Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
I was planning on using that as a way to mess with you in 12th grade.
Oh really?
Yeah. If this boy ever asked me for a letter recommendation, I'm going to be like, oh, do you remember this?
No, I
Do you
never
remember
applied to
this, Aaron?
college.
Do you
So
remember this? I guess it was a moot point, but yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
really funny.
No, I still remember that. No, I mean all the goofy stuff you did, especially in 9th grade.
What did I do in 9th grade?
Well, okay, so in 9th grade, let me remember. So I had you for
Ninth
environmental
grade,
student.
I had an F. I remember in your class.
Yeah, because you weren't doing any of my.
No.
fucking work.
It's because there was a big test that I missed because I was in track, and it went in as a missing instead of excused. So my grade was at an F.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
because you
it's
didn't
pretty
make it
bad.
up.
Well,
I'm not here to defend my grading policy, but
Yeah.
So, well, I'm trying to remember. Well, I had you for environmental studies, which, by the way, can we talk about that for just
Yeah.
1 second?
Yeah.
Okay. So, especially for those of you who don't know, so I am a philosophy teacher primarily. But when I first came into Cleveland, so my very first job at Cleveland was teaching science, specifically 9th grade.
And you were a
environmental
sub,
studies.
right?
I was,
And
he
ran Miss Wareham out of a job.
Yeah, yeah,
basically.
No, don't mischaracterize it. She took a very extended
This
leave
is
of
true.
maternity
This is true.
absence, extended meaning indefinitely.
And where were you teaching before that?
Before I was at San Fernando Middle School.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Where is that? Silmar?
Yeah. Oh, so should I kind of go through the whole timeline, or do you have more topics?
Yeah, let's. I mean,
Just gonna
let's
ask,
just.
how
let's
are
just
you?
get
You know
into it.
what's going on with the
Okay, so-
teaching?
Yeah, but so before Cleveland,
Sure.
where were you?
Okay, so I guess I'll tell you a little bit about my career. So first of all, I'm 28 years old.
Okay.
And it's a trip to think
We're
I've been
both in our 20s.
Yeah, stop.
It's crazy. Really quick, it's crazy to think that in Cleveland, or in the school that we went to, so many teachers are so young. Like, you were, when I was in 9th grade, you were like 24?
When you were in 9th grade, I was 21.
That's crazy.
That's
Because, like, we're almost
insane.
21. And, like,
yeah. Imagine being a year older and then, like, handling 14-year-olds.
That's
Imagine
ridiculous.
that
God.
moment.
yeah, so he was, like, maybe, like, what are you, like 5 years old? No, not 5 years.
am-
What am I talking about? Like 8 years older than
I'm
us?
about 8 years older than you.
Which
yeah.
is, like, not a lot for a teacher. And, yeah. Anyways, go on with your story.
Well, we made it. But so I mean, in that respect, I've been teaching for 8 years. So that's pretty much my whole adult life. I started teaching before I was legally able to drink. Just to
Wow.
give you an
Wow.
idea.
Wow.
So I guess my story of teaching starts at. So I went to CSUN for my undergrad, and I got my. So I was in this program where I got my bachelor's and my teaching credentials simultaneously. So as soon as I was my senior year, I was already student teaching.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
the first place I student at was at Olive Vista Middle School over in Silmar. I taught 7th grade. That was a trip. I learned a lot. My master teacher was British, very thick accent, also a smoker.
Love that.
And then second semester, I went to San Fernando High School, where they said, okay, we're going to give you a remedial English class. Like we're going to give you like the juniors and seniors who need this class to pass, but have not passed the class before. And
Okay,
so I
okay.
thought, oh, okay,
Challenge.
shoot. And that's a habit that I think is very unfortunate. Is many times they'll give the most rookie teachers the toughest assignments, which doesn't make any sense. You'd think you'd want to give that to a veteran, but
Yeah.
anyway. So I got put in a room with a lot of kids from San Fernando, and they were not the most stellar students. But I have to admit to you, I went in with a lot of trepidation, and it was amazing. It was a great
Really?
experience. Oh, the kids were so receptive. Were they academic in the way that I'm used to now in a magnet program? No, definitely not. But I can share a story with you if you want to hear. Have I ever told you the story of when I teach
The
Iliad?
girl?
Yes, the girl.
The girl who's pregnant?
Yeah. No, that's
Oh.
a different story.
Oh. Okay.
Okay. No. Well, that one's a quick one.
She was already pregnant before Mr. Fuentes was there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Just to clarify.
Just to
Thank
clarify.
you very much. No, it was just, that story is very simple. It was
Yeah.
just I
Yeah.
couldn't fail like a girl who was pregnant.
Yeah.
Like she was missing my class a lot, and technically her grade added up to an F, and I just gave her a D. I don't know if I should say that on camera, but
LUSD.
LUSD. Sorry.
Sponsored by
I
LUSD.
I
It's
can
okay.
go back and fudge something in the grade book. But are you really gonna fail a pregnant teenage girl?
Yeah.
Like, who's gonna do that?
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
no,
I would
I was
just
agreeing
fail
with
it.
you. I was agreeing with you. Who's going to fail a pregnant lady?
Well, I thought you said yeah, like
No, like,
yeah.
yeah, I definitely would
When
not.
it comes to grading, how much do you really take like the whole picture into account, or is it really just whatever the grade is the grade?
A lot. I think it's incredibly in bad faith for a teacher to just like hide behind a policy and be like, well, you got this, so that's it. That's
Right.
final. Nah, a teacher has a lot more control over the grade than they sometimes care to admit.
Yeah.
So to me, a grade should be a reflection of the student's achievement, ability, and effort.
Yeah, and it's definitely hard to sum that up. A, B, C.
And I
Yes,
feel
it
like a
is.
lot of people are so caught up. I mean, especially like my peers I remember in high school are so caught up in the grades that they forget to actually learn, and they kind of just
Yeah.
like, take the classes to get an A in it and move on.
Yeah.
I remember like for AP Bio, I took that class just because it was AP advanced placement, and I just took the class just to get a good grade, and I knew nothing, and I'm in pre-medicine, so like I took bio in college. I was like, this is all new to me. Like
Yeah.
I barely know any of this, and
Yeah.
I just took the class to get a good grade. But
Yeah.
I feel like people like, I mean, our society is built that way. I feel like we need to
Yes.
get good grades in order to do well in life. So the knowledge doesn't really matter. when it comes to grades, I feel like.
Yes, people confuse the symbol for the thing.
Yeah.
Or in other words, they assume that an A must mean that you are intelligent or capable when that's not true.
That's true.
An A just means you're very good at following orders.
Mm-hmm.
And don't forget, students get graded the same way the USDA grades meat. A, B, C. Yeah.
The more you know.
That's really
Fun
funny.
facts from
Yeah.
Mr. Fuentes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely true because I feel like the most I learned from school was just learning how to learn. Because that's really something
Skills.
that
Yeah.
you can apply to, because learning about a certain subject or a certain philosopher is great, but actually learning personally your own learning style and how you can actually understand information, that's something you can apply to anything in your life.
Oh, definitely.
And that's
Yeah.
definitely, I think, the more practical element of a school. That's really not emphasized when people are so focused on the actual grade.
Definitely. If I had to boil down school to 2 important skills, it'd be study skills, the ability to just study anything and learn anything, and social skills, which we can talk about later. Too.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was the story with the Brain Girl, but that wasn't the story that I was referencing. So when I was student teaching at San Fernando High School, this 12th grade English class, I remember I decided to take a risk and I wanted to teach them the Iliad. Specifically, I'm forgetting off the top of my head, I think it's book 11 or book 14. Pasito's going to kill me for this, but it's the Rage of Achilles. It's Achilles versus Hector.
Okay.
It's a very iconic book. And my master teacher was like, "Ooh, I don't know, Albert. I don't know if these kids are going to like get it or understand it." And I took that very personally. I said, well, I'm going to try anyway. I got to have high expectations. And so we read through the chapter, and unfortunately, throughout the room, I did see a lot of glazed eyes. And so I thought, damn, maybe they didn't, get it or appreciate it or like it, whatever. The next day, same class comes in, and there's a few boys on their phone. And this is back in, I want to say, 2014. So they're on World Star. And if you guys remember what kind of videos were popular on World, do you remember? Is that a thing?
Yeah, we were also like World Star.
Yeah,
You see like
it's like fight videos, right?
It's just fight videos.
Yeah. Every time that guy from Cleveland, he's such a nice guy. The security.
Oh, Abraham.
Abraham.
Yeah.
We would just shout World Star when we see a fight going on. Albert or Abraham would go in.
God almighty.
I got too many fights in Cleveland.
Anyways. So I remember we came in the next day, and these 2 boys were looking at World Star, and they're just laughing, and I'm like, okay, boys, very funny. Just put it away before class starts, because this is before class started. And they say, no, Mr. Brent, check it out. And it's 2 girls fighting, and I just roll my eyes. But then I recognize one of the girls.
Oh no!
And she's sitting in the room, and I say, Lena, is that you? Yeah.
Oh.
And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, that's why I got kicked out of Silmar High.
Oh
my God!
She made it on World Star.
Now, here's the thing. Now, here's the thing about
a
Lena.
famous girl now from World
a World Star.
Oh God.
And so here's the thing about Lena. Lena, skinny little Mexican girl, 5'3" at the most, little. The girl she was up against in the video was Titanic, like a chola of immense proportions, easily twice her height, 3 times her width. She like everything. She had the McDonald's arches, everything, the whole
McDonald's
shebang.
arches.
Yeah. Oh, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing. So I see them kind of circle each other, and then the boys are pointing and laughing at the video and saying, "Look! She's gonna kick off her sandals." And Lena kicks off her sandals. She's getting ready to rumble. And this chola just rushes her and just bodies poor Lena. Just whomp, gets her on the ground and just starts pounding on her, and that's the end of the video.
Oh my God.
I thought you were gonna say and she won or she beat her up.
I thought this is so embarrassing.
I was gonna say it's like David and Goliath.
No, I'm afraid not.
Okay, all right.
There's a story. And so I was a little upset at the boys. Okay, stop teasing Lena in an obvious moment of humiliation. But then one of those boys, who was one of my worst students, by the way, says to me, "Look, Mr. Fuentes, that girl was like Achilles and Lena was like Hector." My anger just evaporated. I was like, you paid attention.
Oh, that's funny.
All right, okay, let's get class started.
That's really funny. Minus the dragging the dead body through the streets.
Oh, yeah, well, the back of the chariot, you shouldn't kill Patroclus. That's all I'm going to say.
Yep. So that kind of brings up a question. What is, throughout all your years of teaching, what's the most standout memory? The funniest, I just cannot believe this happened, standout memory that's happened.
Oh, I don't have one. I have a lot. You have to get more specific.
Okay, what's the funniest thing that's ever happened?
The funniest thing. Okay. A few things jump out to me. And actually, this is from your year, class of 2019, when you were in freshman year. I don't know if you remember. She was only there, I think, 1 year or 2 years. Do you remember Gabby Portillo?
The name sounds familiar.
When did she only went for 1 year? You said?
I think just 1 year.
Was she?
No,
was
I
she an
don't
artier?
think so.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I remember her.
Okay. So
Oh no.
we were taking. So this is for environmental studies. So we're taking an exam. This is early on in the semester. This one I had like barely taken over for work.
Okay.
And it was like, okay, you have the whole period. Everyone got a copy of the test. Okay, all right, good luck.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember this girl, Gabby, was sitting in the very front, and she had this look of such consternation. Like, she just looked so worried. Like, both of her hands were, like, on her face. She's just staring at the exam. She looked so stressed out. And I call her and say, Gabby. And she just looks up, huh? And I just say very gently, good luck on your exam. And she looks at me and says, oh, you too, Mr. Fuentes.
That's funny. That's what I do all the time at restaurants, where like, they're like, have a enjoy your meal. Thanks, you too.
Yeah, you too.
And I feel like
You
such
too.
an idiot.
Bless you. Thank you.
Like,
You
this
too.
person working like minimum wage.
Yeah.
Hey, have a good meal while
You
I'm
too.
eating a meal.
You
too,
Daniel.
Thanks. You too.
Yeah, so imagine
Yeah.
being embarrassed and failing an exam.
Oh,
Shout out
that's
Gabby.
brutal. Yeah, I think we all failed some exams back in 9th grade
I think I failed some
and
exams.
12th
I
grade.
failed the IUE.
Wait, which IUE?
You failed the IUE?
I got a D.
Can you explain what the
Oh,
IUE is?
which one?
My first
Or-
one.
Oh, go ahead and explain what
Yeah.
an IUE is for those of you.
An IUE is an interdisciplinary unit exam. So basically, you have what we basically had, say, a China unit, right? And we would have science class would be like science behind China, or, the geography. Anyways,
There was no science class in core.
okay, geography, environmental studies. We would talk about the geography, all that stuff in China. History. We talk about the
Mountains.
history of China. We would have what else? Social institutions.
Yeah, like history, English.
Like,
Yeah.
you learned about the art, religion.
Lit-
you learned
lit-
about all these
literature.
different elements
And
of
then we
the
we combine it.
Okay, boys, let the teacher
Oh,
handle
yeah,
this.
yeah.
An interdisciplinary unit exam is this unique
You botched that one.
test that we have in core, or the Humanities Magnet program at Cleveland, where essentially what it is a timed 2-hour in-class essay where students have to synthesize information from multiple disciplines ranging from history to English to philosophy, et cetera, et cetera. And these tests are often pretty difficult. They're often marathon running because you have to write for 2 hours straight.
And it's all from your head.
And it's got to be memorized. You can't have any notes with you.
So you have students like memorizing outlines. I remember I would memorize my intro word for word.
Yes.
I have a good memory, so I just like kind of got it down, and then I would knock out my intro 5 minutes, and then I'd have everything, all the other times to think about what I forgot.
But the thing about the IUE is that you have a good amount of time to prepare.
Yeah,
That's right.
You do.
So you really don't think you're ever going to get an F because it's not like you just sit down one day and they just give it to you. You kind of have a sense of what the prompt's going to be, and you can kind of formulate
That's right.
your ideas. So
Exactly.
how did you get an F on your IUE?
I guess I was just a bad writer in 9th grade. I don't know. I mean, like
Really?
I didn't get an F. I got
Oh.
like a
D, you said?
D plus
A D plus.
That's
or
pretty
something
good.
like that.
It's almost
and-
passing.
No, it was what was it? It was like a C minus D plus, something like that.
Okay.
So I don't know how I got an F. I guess I it was the first one. I just like
Oh, the first one?
the
Oh,
first,
that's
yeah, it was the first one. I was I thought I did well.
I think I got a C on
Um,
that one also.
A lot of times I didn't understand my writing because my writing was really messy.
Yeah, how do
but-
you grade some of these papers that people
good heavens.
like? My handwriting's horrible. It's
Sure.
horrible. Like, what do you? Can you really just like you kind of just good at seeing bad handwriting, or is it just sometimes it's so bad?
I definitely have gotten a lot better
Yeah.
at reading handwriting.
That's good.
A lot better. But honestly, for the most part, here's the thing about grading, especially IUEs, is in IUE, a class's IUEs are essentially you're reading 50 of the same essay
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
to varying degrees of quality. And so grading them can be a chore. Now, obviously, it's important they actually read them and give honest feedback. But in my experience, like once I'm about halfway in, you kind of start to like see
Skip.
patterns.
Okay.
Like, not necessarily skip, but you start to see like, okay, based on the organization from this like paragraph, I can kind of predict what the Yep,
Right.
sure enough.
Yeah, yeah.
They forgot this. Or
Who was it? I remember someone graded my IUE. That was really easy. Dr. Cohen. Dr. Cohen.
Doc.
He just check, and that was the best grade I ever got in 12th grade. I got like an A plus or something.
Do you remember which IUE that was? Was that the Unit 2 IUE? What was it in the winter?
Yeah. was.
yeah, because that one we have 3 days to grade.
Yeah, so it was just like boop, boop, boop. Do all the teachers just meet up to grade the IUE? Or
Yes, we do. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's fine.
we it's called norming. You
Right.
know, we norm usually 2 IUEs together.
Nice.
So we all grade it together. So there's 2 unlucky victims. We pull it random. We pull it random. So just two kids. We grab random, and we all grade them together.
It's nice how much of like a community core it really is. I mean, you have all the teachers. They all know each other. They all come together. They all grade together. They all teach together, which is it's very rare to find that in a school nowadays, especially public school.
Exceedingly, and it is difficult teaching in a team. I got to tell you, like anything. I mean, it's difficult in being in a team for anything. But I mean, it's been such a boon. I mean, it's one of the strengths of the program. I think is the fact that I can text. Basinger, and I do see him occasionally, and I'm in touch with them. Like I'm in touch with Kim, with Basinger, with Pasito fairly regularly. So that's definitely a big part of the community.
No,
That's
for
great.
sure. So then, okay, so after you were teaching 9th grade, you at some point transitioned to teaching philosophy.
That's right.
And you replaced Mr. Lin, who was the longtime philosophy teacher at Cleveland. So what did you personally want to teach philosophy, or was it kind of the position just opened up, or what kind of motivated you to kind of start going down that path? Because from what I've heard you say, that you did a lot of reading, a lot of studying, and it's philosophy. It's not like an easy subject, No. So what kind of motivated you to go down that path?
I have to be honest with you. I was gunning for that job since day one.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I wanted to be the philosophy teacher. I wanted that position. In fact, when I was at CSUN studying to become a teacher, I was this close to getting into primary education, being an elementary school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I love kids. And the only reason why I decided to do high school was in the hopes of teaching that philosophy class.
Wow.
Yeah, in core.
And then it worked out.
I mean, that's great that you have, ever since you were in high school, you wanted to teach.
Yep.
So you have that mindset of what you want to do, and you just...
and I realized, especially having interacted with so many of my students now in college, that's something I realized was such a blessing. Like, I knew what I wanted to do since high school, and I know that most people kind of struggle to figure out what they want to do in terms of a career.
Yeah,
I'm very lucky in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool when you have a niche, you know what you want to do, and you just go for that. Like, I know a lot of people who do that and succeed, obviously, but then I know tons of people who are like
kind of meander
in their 20s, and they
figure it out.
They could be your age and they don't even know what they want to do yet.
Right. And it's not a race. It's not like you have to have things figured out by your 20s.
Exactly.
Some people are just lucky in that. And I mean, some people are just lucky another way. I mean, some people are lucky in relationships. Some people are lucky in terms of material wealth and privilege.
Yeah.
It's just people are just lucky in different things.
I feel like it's just so screwed up in college too, where it's like you have to just apply to a college and decide what you want to do when you're 18.
Yep.
Or 17.
Or 17. Yeah, it's like you have your whole life ahead of you, and you have to decide your career, and people expect you to stick with it.
Yeah.
You can't change, obviously. You can. I know a guy who I was talking to. He's my cousin's friend. He went to medical school in Canada.
Okay.
Did 4 years, finished, graduated, and before his residency, he's like, you know what? I want to do film. So he's like, I got all the medical experience I need. I'm going to do film now. So it's like it's very, you could definitely change what you want to do. It's just very different in our society to do
definitely.
that.
Yeah. And we can talk career. I mean, we can talk about it now. But I guess it's for all the listeners in terms of career advice. The best career advice I have ever heard from anybody is, okay, you're going to be spending about a third of your adult life working. So you really ought to think about it in either one of two ways, option A or option B. Either option A, find a career that you truly have a passion for, that you really enjoy. Pay be damned. Like teaching. And in that way, you're not going to feel like you work. Mm-hmm. Now, not everyone is going to find a career that they, love. Yeah. So option B is, okay, find a career that you can tolerate, has good hours, pays you well enough to be able to then allow you to do the things that you love.
Yeah.
One or the other.
Yeah.
There has to be balance there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, it's interesting to say that, Daniel, because that was exactly my stance coming out of high school. I mean, I didn't even apply to any colleges.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, I was like, okay, I don't really know what I want to do. I could just try to go to, some of the schools everyone else is applying to, but what if I go to a school, they don't have a program for what I want to do, then I got to transfer to a different school after being there and undeclared, and it just didn't really make sense for me, so I just went to community college for 2 years.
And that's so smart.
And then all the doors opened up. If I wanted to, stay an extra year and go to UCLA, they have programs where it's like an 85% acceptance rate. So you can take those paths that you want to take, and the options are just there for you, versus having to make that decision and go all that into debt at like 17 years old.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when we talk about
Yeah.
debt, oh god, I mean that's crushing so many people's
Such a
lives
trap.
right now.
Definitely.
And it's really awful, and I think it's because young people are really pressured into going into like a 4-year university right
Yeah.
off the bat, even when
Yeah,
they
yeah.
don't know, even when they don't know what they want to study or
when
do.
we were all applying to college, I mean, I'm sure you know, there's a whole atmosphere and environment
Yeah.
of everyone's like, where are you going? You know,
Yeah.
where are you applying? Did you get in? Did you get it?
Yeah.
And I felt that coming from like both my parents didn't go. They weren't born here. They didn't go to any American college. They didn't know the system. My dad went to college in Canada, but like that's totally different.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no idea what FAFSA was. I had to
Oh, man.
study my ass off of what FAFSA was, educating my parents, telling them, hey, this is that. And I was very behind, and I really, really wanted to go to a 4-year university. I think partly also because everybody was around me that was
Yep.
applying. All my friends were applying to 4-year universities.
Plus,
and I
you're in a
felt-
really competitive program in high school.
Exactly.
It's
So
not
you're
just
like,
high
why
school.
not?
You're in a really competitive program where kids
Yeah,
are going
yeah,
to
yeah.
really high-performing schools.
Exactly.
So it's even more so.
That's
But
right.
then when you look back at it now, nobody cares where you go. Nobody
Yeah.
cares if you went to Harvard or if you
Yeah.
went to, I don't know where, like a state school anywhere.
LA Valley College.
LA Valley College. Yeah, no, like, and I know all the people now that go to LA Valley College or any community college. They're going to Berkeley. They're going to UCLA. They're doing all these things.
Oh,
Plus,
yeah.
we lucked out because it was COVID, so everyone just came home to
Exactly.
begin with.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I was gonna say our year is probably the luckiest year.
I would agree with you.
Yeah, because
I would agree with
we
you.
literally had all the senior events. We had prom, we had homecoming, we had all that stuff. We had the senior picnics, all
Mhm.
that stuff, and we had a graduation.
Yes.
Next year, none of that happened, and they went home after like spring break.
Yeah, it was crazy
crazy.
how the whole landscape at school just completely changed.
Oh god, yeah.
So
yeah.
how's that been as a teacher transitioning? Because the one thing about Mr. Fuentes, if you guys don't know, he has a very unique teaching style.
Oh yeah.
It's very we'll go into it. It's very engaging.
was
It's
gonna
very
say,
it's very in your face, but it's also very informative.
And that's what makes you, I
Um,
think, learn the material better when you
Yeah.
actually enjoy, when it's a show, when it's entertaining, and
That's
when
what it is. It's a show.
It
It's
is,
exactly
yeah.
what it is.
Yes. Oh, and actually, let me return to a previous question
Mhm.
you asked in order to answer this question more fully. How did I begin teaching philosophy in the first
Mhm.
place? And then you can get an idea of my philosophy behind teaching.
Right, exactly.
So I took over from Mr. Lin, who taught for 50 years in LAUSD, 50. This guy was a master. And you guys never had Mr. Lin. I don't think he
No.
ever came in for a guest lecture.
Oh,
No,
one
he
time.
did, he did.
Oh,
One
one time.
Yeah,
a
yeah,
few
yeah.
times, I think, actually,
Okay.
for me.
For those of you who don't know, so Mr. Ray Lin was a teacher. He's retired now, but he was, the best way to describe him is he was this old school adversarial type of lecturer. For example, like he was terrifying. So imagine this tall white guy, piercing blue eyes, long white hair, long white beard. The very image of a philosopher. And he would just come into the classroom every day, just bursting with just this aggressive energy. So, for example, I mean, he would just pick at kids at random. Like some kids, think you're sitting in the back, you're safe. No, he would point at some kid and say, "You, what does Descartes say about epistemology? Go." Mr. Let me just check my notes. Fucking idiot. And then he would go to someone else. He was hardcore.
Yeah.
Oh, we were scared of him.
Yeah.
And I remember I had him for 2 periods. I had him for philosophy of mind, period
Mhm.
1, and then aesthetics, philosophy of art, period 2. And I was in the same seat both periods.
Yeah.
And I was in the hot seat. I was right to the right of him, and so he'd pick on me constantly in
Okay.
high school. And so he just bark at me for an hour, 5-minute bathroom break, bark at me for another hour.
Yeah.
And as a result, we became pretty close.
Mhm.
And so we stayed in contact even when I was in college. He's actually the one who got me my job.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
He's the one who when Wareham went on maternity leave, he's the one who recommended me to Macon and said, "Oh, hire Albert."
That's how he talks.
That's how he talks. And I still keep in regular touch with the old
Yeah.
man. I chatted with him a few days ago. Actually,
How's he doing?
he's doing good.
Yeah.
He's still kicking. I haven't gone to visit him unfortunately because he's very COVID conscious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
he's
but
retired now, right?
He's retired. Yeah.
Doesn't he have like? I heard this story.
Oh,
Doesn't
dear.
he have a dog,
Willie.
Willie, and every time Willie dies, he
Yes.
just gets the same kind of dog
It's a border collie.
and
yes.
names it Willie.
Yes, correct. Correct.
Is that not crazy?
That is kind of crazy.
And unfortunately, Willie the Fourth, the most current
Okay.
incarnation, passed away.
No!
2 months ago. Yeah.
Time for
too bad.
Willie the Fifth.
It may be.
Oh my God.
Maybe. But
That's so funny.
That's
Yeah,
just
no,
like
that's
he can't
true.
detach from Willie.
Yeah.
He can't give it up.
That's really funny.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it's some commentary on language. I'm sure, but
Yeah. So kind of going into philosophy, when you started really learning about philosophy, to prepare for teaching the subject, what was something, because it's such an interesting and fascinating subject with so many different viewpoints and perspectives. What do you think was like either the most interesting thing that you've learned about, that's something that you just kind of can always kind of think about, or like kind of an epiphany moment you had, something you were studying that really just stood out to you?
Well, okay, so a lot of my knowledge, and I have to tell you this, I didn't study philosophy in college. I majored in English. I was studying to become an English teacher. And so all of my philosophical knowledge was either tutored to me by Mr. Lin or self-taught. And so, okay, I'll answer your question, but to give you the full answer, when I took over that job, well, okay, Mr. Lin shocked us all when he announced he was going to retire. He shocked us. Like, and you're thinking, why? We all thought he was going to die in the classroom. I say that without a hint of irony or humor. We all thought he was just going to have a heart attack in the middle of some like philosophy lecture. And so when he announced that he was retiring, it came as quite a bit of a jolt to us. And I remember I went to go visit him the next morning. Have I told you this story?
No.
I went to go visit him the next morning, and I asked him, "Hey, Ray, is it true? Are you retiring?" And he said, "Yeah." And he asked me directly, "Do you want to take over the philosophy class?" And I said, "Yeah, this is a class." He's the one who started the program at Cleveland.
Wow.
You know, he generations of kids he's taught philosophy. And so he asked me, "Do you want to take over the philosophy class?" I said, "Yeah." He leaned me close, like uncomfortably close, and he said to me, "Then you better be ready to work harder than you ever worked in your fucking life." And that summer, I think I read more books that summer I did my whole 4 years of college.
Really?
He was on me. He would call me. He would email me. He would demand that I go over and visit him so he could like lecture at me. His wife would serve us dinner, but he would like lecture at me for like 6 hours straight.
Wow.
And like, just expect me to like, keep up, like take notes. He would call me at random points in the day and ask me a random question. Like, I'm dead serious.
Wow.
Like he would call me and be like, "Okay, what's Sartre's views on phenomenology? Go." Like right there. And like, "Read this, write this. Why the fuck ain't even gotten to this yet? Hurry up." And that whole summer he was on me.
Wow. Yeah, that's like, I mean, because that's years and years and decades of knowledge you got to cram into a summer before you just hit the ground running.
That's right.
And you don't regret doing that, right?
Oh, no. It was a challenge. I'm not going to lie to you. It was difficult. But he almost like put me through like I'd say like it was like an intellectual boot camp.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do I regret it? Absolutely not, because that kind of laid the foundations for me as a philosophy teacher.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think his crowning achievement, Mr. Lin, his crowning achievement is precisely what you mentioned. Philosophy is such a hard subject to really grasp and read about. He made it somehow intelligible to high schoolers.
Exactly.
Which is quite the feat. And I mean, I've gotten to the point now where I use his book, his because he pre-wrote his own book, collection of packets. And I edit them now. It's gotten to the point where I am now editing and adding my own content.
Wow.
That's actually my project this summer. I'm writing a packet on Nietzsche.
On what?
Nietzsche.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Nietzsche's existentialism.
Okay.
Cool.
So and now to kind of give you the big, finally arrive at the answer to your question. I think for me, what really affected me more than anything, and I loved philosophy. I mean, I loved the skepticism we learned. I loved existentialism. But like, what really sold me on this philosophy is definitely Wittgenstein, like philosophy of language.
Yeah.
Like I know I make a bit of a joke, but
that's the thing that stuck with me. Like I think I forgot like half the philosophers that you taught me, but Wittgenstein, like that's the philosopher that actually stuck with me because it was so eye-opening and enlightening that I was just like, whoa.
That's right.
What the heck?
Oh, we got a little bit of background noise here.
So they heard about Wittgenstein.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Is it possible to give a brief, like, I know we studied in for like weeks and weeks and weeks, like just like 2-3 minutes, give a little lecture to the audience about what the whole idea behind Wittgenstein and language is?
I can summarize his thesis in one sentence.
Okay.
And just so you know, I've gotten better at teaching Wittgenstein because I've actually read his books and I've really gotten into it myself now. I can summarize his views with one thesis. Language precedes and shapes thought. I'll say that one more time and slower for everyone. Language precedes, means comes before, and shapes thought. In other words, it is impossible to think in the way that we conceptualize thinking without some kind of human-created language. Now, immediately that's challenged by students, which I love. Because, immediately you'll think of counterexamples. For those of you listening in and who haven't studied Wittgenstein, you might think, well, that's not true. I can think in pictures. Or I can feel things without words. Or other such, foolish statements.
Yeah.
And I love teaching Wittgenstein because he systematically goes through all those counter-arguments and obliterates them. And so you're left with this, like, almost like a foundational truth. Which to me is exceedingly rare in philosophy. I mean, it's like that, and I think, therefore I am.
Yeah. And can you talk about the counter argument of, most people say when I go to my family and I tell them, well, what I learned about Wittgenstein, they're like, oh, what about babies when they first cry? Like, how do they, language has to come after, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, and that's something very important to note. Language does not create a reality. Wittgenstein was not... and I'm sorry, I should really introduce Wittgenstein very quickly. Because we keep saying that name, Wittgenstein. Ludwig Wittgenstein was a 20th century philosopher of language who wrote only 2 books, and we really only study his second book, Philosophical Investigations. And that's where he puts this
riveting.
thesis. Yeah. Language precedes and shapes thought. So to address your point, because people say that all the time. What about babies? Okay, what about babies? Do they think?
Yes.
Really? How?
Oh no.
I don't think they think logically think.
Then it also comes into do they have reason? But then that's another.
Do babies have reason?
Babies don't have reason.
Babies do not.
Babies just have pure instinct.
Yes. Yeah. If you spend any amount of time around babies, they do not possess reason.
Yeah.
Do other animals like dogs possess reason?
Okay. Now that you bring this up, this is going to be in the main podcast. But I was reading this article
let's hear it.
about parrots in Australia that have learned to open trash can lids.
Yes.
Okay. So, bear with me for a moment. I think that that proves that they can rationally think.
Now, hold on. There is a difference between instinctual behavior based on reward and punishment and conceptualizing and abstract thinking. And now you're like, oh, Fuentes, you're playing semantics. Well, of course, because that's all we can play with. Because I have to ask you, okay, we can't have a conversation unless you define thinking. What does it mean to think? Because then you can make that very broad. You could say, oh, trees think because they communicate with each other with their roots.
Yeah.
Fun fact, they do.
Well, I'm scared now.
Never thought of that.
but in the way that you and I think, doubtful. And also important to consider. The fact that you and I are speaking English is significant. If we were speaking Mandarin or Swahili or Spanish, the conversation and the thoughts that we have would be very different.
Right,
that's true.
Yeah, I mean, I remember. I think maybe you had mentioned this when we were learning about this. Like there are the names we have for colors in our language. It's not every single language around the entire world has the same translation for the specific colors we talk about. So it's like, think for a moment. If there was only like black, white, and red, then everything else would kind of be a shade of that. Because we say green, but this grass is green, but also the grass in the sun is also green, but it's just different shades. So if all you had was like black, white, and then like green, so then things would just be different shades of that color. But you're saying, well, it's, we all are seeing the same thing technically, but we talk about it in different ways because the language shapes how we think about it.
We don't even know if we're seeing the same exact thing because I could be seeing a shade of green that I think is green, and you could be seeing purple for,
Yes.
For anyone
and Wittgenstein points out that that's actually, I don't know if you remember the beetle in the box.
I do, yeah.
But that's his whole point with that is it is irrelevant whether or not, let's say, you look at the grass and Aaron sees what we'd consider green and you see what we consider to be purple. Mm-hmm. It is irrelevant. It doesn't matter as long as we all agree to call it green in English.
So language, that's what Wittgenstein was saying, that language creates thought. Like if the grass wouldn't be called green, we wouldn't see it as green.
Correct.
We would see it as whatever else we call it.
Color, like the ability to separate a property from an object, like color or shape or texture, is only possible through language. Mm-hmm. Other animals can't do that. I mean, don't get me wrong. Other animals can behave in certain ways, but can they sit down and think? And especially in the way that you and I can get reflective, self-criticism. That's not possible.
And do you think that we learn reason as we go on in our life? Like, do you think society teaches us reason, or do you think human beings in general, were instinctively able to use reason?
Well, okay, let's take the example that Aaron said earlier with a parrot's opening trash cans. I think to some extent we would be able to use tools, we'd be able to avoid hazards. I think to that extent. But if we're talking reason, and again, let's define our terms. If reason is the ability to grasp necessary connections, then sure, we could say other animals can rudimentary reason. Mm-hmm. But again, like you and I can. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about what we're doing. This whole conversation that we're having. I mean, everything that we're doing right now is really rooted in language. Mm-hmm. Technology is not possible without language in many ways. Yeah. Everything that we're doing and talking about is language.
And I think there's a difference when it comes to animals other than humans. I think sometimes it could be seen as reason, but like with the parrot example and in the article I was reading, it's more of it's like a learned behavior in the sense that they see another parrot who did it, So then they
Sure.
do it and they get a reward. But is there a conscious thought between, okay, if I actually end up doing this, I'm going to actually arrive at, they may just do it
Sure.
and just not really think twice about it.
Exactly.
So-
Like a lot of people, especially students on social media, have sent me videos of like these dogs like pressing buttons.
Yeah,
I don't know if
yeah.
you've seen things like that. And they say, "Isn't this dog learning language?" And I say, "Well, sorta, but it's not mastering it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna hit a wall." And I think a lot of it has to do with biology, because I mentioned this earlier. Just because our thoughts are shaped by language does not mean that reality is shaped by language. Like, for instance, like I would never advise somebody to go out in the middle of the street and play in traffic just because car is a word. There clearly is an objective world that has to exist prior to language.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But what that objective world is, I have no idea, because I'm
Wow.
stuck thinking in words.
Yeah.
Remember the metaphor? I'm trapped in.
The fly bottle.
Yeah.
No, it's true because, and for the fly bottle, for those of you who don't know, it's kind of like the idea behind it is that as when we're born and as we grow up and we learn language, we speak, but we speak with the words and we think in words that we've been taught, the language that we've been taught.
Yeah.
So then the idea is that our thoughts are limited and our whole conceptual mind is limited by the words that we're using. And I think that like The Handmaid's Tale, when you read that book, that's just a perfect example because it's a world where language has been shifted in a way that the words you use to describe certain things aren't what we would use in our lives, and you could see the effect it has on the characters because they're thinking about things differently, which is just an interesting thing to think about.
Oh yeah, and in fact, I can actually speak on that. So in a grad school class I took a year ago, we learned about this. It was a philosophical concept, and this has to do with Handmaid's Tale, called a Hermeneutical Injustice. So hermeneutics basically just means the philosophy of interpretation, and injustice means bad. So hermeneutical injustice is the idea. It's when a person or a population of people is denied the usage or the learning of a particular word or set of words, which limits the way they can interpret their world. Example. When there was an influx of women entering the workforce in the 1940s due to World War II, this continued in the 1950s because, of course, women are like, oh, wow, earning money is nice. And as a result, there were now mixed workplaces where there weren't before. And as a result, there was a lot of workplace harassment. Men, I mean, unfortunately, it's still kind of true today, didn't really know how to interact with women in the workplace. And the thing is, though, that there wasn't really language for that. So a woman could feel uncomfortable if a guy made a comment or touched her in a way she didn't want to be touched. She could maybe perhaps feel uncomfortable if she wouldn't be able to think about it. And then there was a massive push in the 1950s of the term workplace harassment or sexual harassment. And once women learned that word, then they could process and think about their feelings differently and be like, wait, that was harassment. They had a word for it now, a tool to interpret. Take this to Handmaid's Tale. If you were to raise a generation of girls and never teach them the terms harassment, rape, things like that. The Ceremony, if you guys remember that from the book. Anybody who's read The Handmaid's, if you haven't read it, read it. Great book.
It's a crazy book.
And basically the idea would be that, you're in the ceremony. You don't think of it as like, oh, this is awful. This is a non-consensual, sex is rape. You just think, oh, this is a duty.
It's a duty, right?
You have to do. And you're going to think and feel about it differently, just completely based on the language that you they use.
And again, that
great.
goes to show that the language that you've been given, the language you understand, it limits how you think about things.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you this. So do you think that human beings are superior in a way because they can reason and they can think other ways?
Superior in certain ways. We're definitely superior at creating weapons and destroying the planet. We're definitely good at that.
We're pretty good at that.
We're pretty
I gotta
good-
say.
We're pretty
Mutually
good at
assured
killing things.
destruction.
Yeah, we're pretty good at killing things. As a species, we're par none. Like
And
sharks, lions.
And it's funny because we're like, oh, look at us, we're saving the world, or we're making the world a better place, but we're literally just cleaning up our actions that human beings have made.
Yeah.
If human beings weren't on the planet, I don't know. I feel like I just can't see any benefit that human beings brought.
Well, because
to this.
humans haven't been on the planet for like 5 billion years.
Well, I'm talking about our
Then-
society. I like after industrialization, all that stuff.
Right. No, it's crazy how, if you look at the entire span of Earth and then humans, we're just like a blink.
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
like a
we're
blink of an
blink.
eye in terms of like the amount of years we've been here relative to how long Earth's been around. But the amount of damage we've done is just insane.
And exactly like Daniel was saying, in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
Because you're right. It's a very like Western-centric view to say, oh, humans are messing up the planet. No, humans were just fine. The Australian Aboriginals lived for 40,000 years.
Yeah.
Song lines.
Dream time.
Dream time.
They lived in the dream time for 40,000 years. Yep.
And you haven't read up on Aboriginal Australians. You should.
Not recently? Oh, there you go. Although I just connect that, and I think I might have mentioned this when you were in 12th grade, the reason why we can't understand the dream time is because we don't have a term for it in English. We don't. So it is impossible for us to truly understand it.
And
yeah,
time itself is just language.
Oh God, yes. Yes. Oh, and there might be some physicists out there who are listening to this podcast who are like, "What? No, time is real." Really? Where's time? Show me a time.
Show me time.
Show me
a time. You can show me the effects of time.
It's like it's 2:00. How do you describe that? Or show me 2. Show 2 on your fingers.
Oh no, math.
Yeah,
yeah, math isn't real. We can elaborate on that, but
why is it math
we
real?
had this math teacher, Mr. Butler. He was like,
coincidentally was my calculus teacher too.
Yeah, he was my calculus teacher as well, and like he just tell Mr. Fuentes math isn't real and all that stuff, and I'd go to Mr. Fuentes, I'd say math is real. Math is real. Math is real. I'd go to him and like math is real. Like, no, it's not, and just be back and forth. And do you guys agree at all or not really?
Okay, so I guess I'll let you in personally. Personally, Butler and I get along great.
Like,
it's fine. Well, we definitely put on a bit of a show for the students. Because I know the way he acts in his room. That fucking Fuentes is what the fuck.
Damn.
Yeah, bobbing his head like a feline predator, like walking along. Yeah, exactly what I'm talking about.
I love he goes like this, like every time I go in this class.
Yes. I mean, so the argument, because we do actually disagree on that point, but the argument's a really old one, which is math created or discovered? And he, like many mathematicians, thinks it's discovered, and I think it's created. Where I don't think there's any evidence of an objective mathematics that exists out in some like Platonic world of forms. I think it's man-made. I think it's very useful.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna like talk smack about math in that way. It's incredibly helpful. I would prefer a mathematician and engineer build a bridge than an artist. Or heaven forbid a philosopher.
Philosopher.
Those goddamn philosophers.
Yeah. So that's kind of another question, because I feel like, and this is something I remembered when learning, even in college when I took some philosophy classes, that when you're in a philosophy class, I feel like you're just being taken through, different eras and different thinkers. And sometimes it feels like you learn about one philosopher and it's like, oh, this makes so much sense. And then next week you learn about a different philosopher who completely, discredited everything the last philosopher said. And you're like, oh, of course, like that makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
And then you go to somebody else and it just keeps feeling like everything you learn about in the moment is like so brilliant, makes so much sense. And then there's somebody else who came up with a logical reason to dispute it. So as someone such as yourself that's like studied so many different philosophers and theories and looked at it from so many different angles, how is it kind of like, how you personally, like, is it possible to even identify with anything when it seems like the next thing you read just like disproves what you just read?
Well, to me, that's the whole appeal of philosophy, is the fact that there is no like one solid answer, because anything that you say, somebody out there will disagree with you. And I think then it just becomes an exercise in critical thinking. To me, that's the main utility of philosophy, and that's why it should be taught. Now, because when it becomes an intellectual circle jerk, which unfortunately it is in some academia, then to me it's utterly worthless when you detach it from ordinary life. To me, the main utility is to be able to challenge people's thinking and challenge people's beliefs. If you can honestly accept, and it's a difficult thought for humans to naturally accept, if you can honestly accept the thought, I might be wrong about this deeply held belief that I have, great, then we're on the way to living in a more peaceful society.
Wasn't it who was it? Immanuel Kant.
Kant.
He was talking about, like, he kind of came up with the whole critical thinking aspect of it, didn't he? Like the whole public sphere.
In many ways, yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, I think I might have mentioned Kant like for like 2 days with you guys.
Yeah.
We did Descartes, then Hume, and then Kant. And it is funny that you're exactly like Aaron was saying. The philosophers just contradict. Now, but then eventually you do have to like take some kind of stand. And it can change. It's not like, okay, I guess I'm a Stoic philosopher and that's it. But like for example, you try to find a foundation. For me, it's Wittgenstein, and then build off from there. But even from that foundation, you can still split off into totally different schools of thought.
So would you say learning about Wittgenstein really inspired you to, or built your philosophy per se? Like what? Sorry, my question is like, what philosopher really, inspired you to even teach philosophy
teach
or
philosophy.
to think the way you do think?
Well, Wittgenstein definitely, and then a guy that came after him, Richard Rorty, who I don't think I haven't had a chance to teach him the last couple of years because of scheduling.
Really?
Yeah, it's
You
real
taught it
shame.
to us, didn't you?
He's more modern, right?
Much more modern.
Yeah.
And because he gets a lot of Wittgenstein's ideas and presents it in a postmodern package. And it's this idea of like questioning objective truth and really like getting past like objective ethics and that's what I really like about philosophy is being able to challenge and question. And I mean that's what every philosopher does. That's the one thing they all have in common. Everyone from like Socrates to Sartre is just questioning and just having that exposing stupidity and dumb belief.
Yeah. I mean, I remember learning in 10th grade because we did philosophy also in 10th grade.
That's right.
But that was like really ancient philosophers.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember learning. I think it was like the guy. Maybe it was the guy before Democritus. Maybe
Which
it was
one?
Democritus. It was someone who was like, okay, basically, if I'm gonna walk to this tree, as I walk to the tree, before I get to the tree, I got to get halfway to the tree.
Oh,
But
yeah,
before I
yeah,
get
the
halfway,
paradoxes.
you got to go halfway of the halfway, and then you could keep going halfway to the tree, and you could infinitely go halfway to your destination. So he's like, well, technically, like reality or like movement or whatever, it's an illusion. Because
Yeah.
how can you actually get anywhere? That was I don't know if that you remember that at all.
Parmenides, I think.
Parmenides, yeah, and then Democritus was like, oh well, then you have like you get to a point
Oh, the
where
atom, yeah,
the atom
indivisible.
where you can't go any further.
Yeah.
Yes.
So but I remember learning about that, and then that went to like the atom theory, and then they were like, oh, there are like chair atoms and desk atoms that are like hard and and
Yeah.
dark, and then there are like
Yeah.
cheese atoms which are tasty and soft and stupid ideas. But at the time, I'm sure it made perfect sense to them.
Oh, it's hilarious. Can you imagine being Democritus, the guy who came up with the idea of the atom, and like all your contemporaries saying like, "Wow, you are such a fucking idiot. You think things are made out of atoms? Everyone knows the world's made out of fire." Like
Yeah.
Fire and water. Yep.
No, and I feel like philosophy changes over time, and I feel like it's very similar to science. Like
Yes.
science,
Oh, yeah.
science advances, and I think science in a way is philosophy.
Yes,
know?
I will always maintain this. Science is a philosophy of knowledge and a very efficient one.
Yeah.
But a lot of its roots do come from classical Greece.
Have you ever debated like hardcore with another philosopher? Have you ever gotten mad at another philosopher?
No,
Okay.
because I don't take it personally. I would only get mad if they said something like just incontrovertibly
Like math is real.
stupid.
Come on.
No. Like something ethical. Like I'll give you an example. So in Plato's Republic, Socrates usually keeps his cool in most of the dialogues. He's usually very witty, very funny.
Yeah.
He only loses his temper, I think, a couple times. And one of the times he gets into an argument with this guy named Thrasymachus, probably mispronouncing it, Thrasymachus. And Thrasymachus basically asks the really like edgy question of like, oh, why would I want to be good? Like, okay, what do you mean? Yeah, why would I want to be good? Like, what's stopping me from like doing bad things and profiting off of them? And like, so isn't injustice just? That's one of the only things that pisses off Socrates. Socrates is like, okay, let me take you through why that is so stupid, like point by point.
Yeah.
I actually got in a fight with my girlfriend at the time because of philosophy.
Oh, really?
It was
Oh,
actually in my freshman year of college. I go to this honors college that's very similar to core, basically core.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, I think it was Immanuel Kant and the public sphere, and now he's talking about how you have to listen to other people's opinion, even if they're stupid, or even if they're, even if you don't agree with it.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend was like,
You
no,
have to listen to my opinion.
yeah,
even though
no,
they're stupid.
and she's like, no, like if their opinion's stupid, it could be destructive, all that stuff. So you shouldn't listen to people if their like. But I got so mad because I'm like, no, like my whole basis is like, you gotta respect other people's opinion no matter what it is, and rebuttal them and maybe you could try to change their minds, if you have a good argument. But I got in a whole fight because of philosophy. So.
Well, good. I mean, that's kind of the purpose.
Yeah.
Don't lose relationships over philosophy. Most philosophers are single for a reason. Don't forget that.
Oh yeah, okay. That's another question I had for philosophers. Okay, I'm just thinking like, if your career is a philosopher, especially in the old times,
Sure.
were these just like rich, just like trust fund babies? Like, what do
For
they
the
actually do to?
For the most part,
Yeah?
yes.
Yeah.
For the most part, yes. Ludwig Wittgenstein was obscenely rich. His family was. Plato was a total Chad. No, seriously. Oh no, because he was an athlete. He got Plato just means broad-shouldered. He was a wrestler.
Wait, so his parents called him Plato?
No, his friends called him Plato.
Oh, so
Like,
what was his name?
He was
Do you know?
I forget his real name. It was like something very Greek sounding, but Plato's his nickname. It just means
Oh,
broad-shouldered.
I never knew that.
He's just this absolute unit of a philosopher. Like this Big dude.
That's really funny.
In fact, I'm trying to think of philosophers. Hume was also fairly well off. To my knowledge, one of the only philosophers who was like poor was Karl Marx. Funny enough.
Wow.
That's funny. I don't know if we're gonna go down that rabbit hole, but
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's funny because I was just like I was like, people just sit around and think all day.
Yeah. Who can do that?
Yeah. It's like they're not getting like donations. Like donate to my philosophy cause.
Yeah.
So I can sit around and think
But
all day.
philosophers do have followers now, and they
Sure.
they do have people that support their ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sure. And depending on what they say and who they are.
Yeah.
And I do have to tell you, and speaking very sincerely, for me personally, a big goal of mine is, for me, the philosophy itself is ultimately unimportant.
Mm-hmm.
What's important is just the ability to think and then articulate that thought for my students. Because my goal, my dream, is for you guys to be able to go into any college classroom, any philosophy classroom, or any humanities classroom, and be able to kind of hold your head up high and be able to engage in any kind of participation and not be intimidated by, like, some white boy who read like Kant once and thinks like, oh, he's such hot shit. And I say this especially keeping a very keeping a close eye on especially my students of color, especially girls, who I think suffer more from this. Philosophy is overwhelmingly male and overwhelmingly white, even today. And for those of you who don't know, I'm not white. I'm Mexican. And
yeah, for all our Spotify and Apple Podcast listeners,
just so you're aware where this is coming from. And so, because I've noticed that, like, especially in college classrooms, where you usually have, usually well-intentioned, usually guy, usually white, who really just dominates the conversation, and oftentimes will shut down other students, again, especially women of color, because perhaps they're not trained in the same way that that this guy is, and they'll shut down conversation by asking a really pointed question, like, okay, well, what do you think about that, or what do you think about like this and that, and many times, like, and then their voice gets shut down. Ooh, it gives me no greater pleasure. Ooh, it gives me no greater pleasure than to think of one of my students, especially a girl, especially a student of color, being able to just like sass one of these idiots. Well, do you think we can think without words? Because I think that's just a word. That doesn't mean anything. Being able to like use Wittgenstein, because Wittgenstein is a weapon. You can make someone feel.
Definitely.
And I have to be very careful with that. And that's something that I think I need to be more conscious of. Is you can very easily make someone feel super stupid with Wittgenstein. And that's something you got to be aware of. But it's almost like an intellectual weapon. I am arming you to, but to defend yourselves.
Yeah, Wittgenstein was crazy. I also remember with Wittgenstein, this is like one of my most standout memories. The photo that you used for Wittgenstein, it looked like he was in an insane asylum. Like the dude is like giving this like crazy look. The wall behind him was like scratched up. And then
girls were like, "Oh, he's hot."
One day, out of nowhere, Mr. Fuentes asked our class, he's like, "Quick question. Do you guys think Wittgenstein is hot?" And then the girls were like, "Yes." I was like, "What is he talking about?"
This guy looks like a madman.
He looked insane. He looks insane. We can put the photo up on screen right now in case you're watching the podcast. But it was completely bizarre. But I don't know.
Core girls have low standards. We'll look at the core boys.
Oh my god.
But and you're absolutely right. And I did that just to fuck around and be funny. But no, every single year, sincerely, I get like a handful of people, usually girls, who are like, "Wow, Wittgenstein's hot." And I get it. If your competition is some of the other jokers, like in terms of philosophers, I get it.
Yeah.
He has a certain bad boy look to him, I guess.
He does.
Yeah.
He does. All right, so I have to ask, because I just want to make sure we have time for this question.
Oh, sure.
What is the meaning of life?
Oh boy.
That's a big question.
I put that question in like 5 minutes before you.
I know. I just saw him like, wait, what?
The meaning of life. Okay.
Wait, but before we start that, I have another question.
Okay.
Do you have any philosophers? Do you have any students that are going down the philosophy route now?
Oh yeah. So I keep in touch with a lot of students.
Okay.
Evidently.
Yeah.
I keep in touch with a lot of students, and there are a number of students who are either studying philosophy or at least are just very interested in it as a subject, and they reach out pretty consistently. They'll email me or sometimes they'll message me. So for instance, I guess let me give a shout out to a few people who I've kept in regular touch with.
Yeah.
Eileen Ramos, class of 2019.
Yeah.
She's great. She's not majoring in philosophy, but she's always been very interested in it. Ashton, for a class of 2020.
Yeah.
I keep in touch with him. He's also very interested in it. And and anybody else? Oh, in fact, I don't know if you want me to drop my my email in this podcast.
Yeah,
maybe.
go for it.
I mean,
If any of you are interested in reaching out, you want readings, you have questions, you can always reach out to me, afuentes@corebaby.org. That's AFUENTES at COREBABY.org.
Yeah, we could also drop it like in the
The link, for sure.
Yeah,
and
for
also
sure.
before you talk about this meaning of life thing, I wanted to say I keep in touch with Fuentes as well. I was bugging him for a year now to send me a video that I very much regret making for a 12th grade project.
God.
Okay, all right. Let me. All right, you can talk about the video, but let me describe the project, which I have come to really regret because students have gotten crazier and crazier.
Yeah,
Have they really?
Yes. Okay. So
it was crazy our year.
So Unit 2 for
go.
us is existentialism, and one of the themes we talk about in existentialism is free will. And this sounds so stupid. I challenge the students to basically create a project about free will, and they have a blank check. Like, they can do an art project, they can do a performance piece, they could do a video, whatever. Like, something that has to do with the theme of free will. And there's a prompt, so it's not completely open-ended, but students have done increasingly bizarre things to show that they are indeed free.
Was that the prompt?
What?
Free will? I thought it was about the dude with the eyes.
It was the eyes.
Well, there were options, and there's
Okay,
another one with
okay.
the gaze of the other.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
I don't even remember what our theme was. I just
wanted
know there
to-
were Nazis involved.
Okay, well, go ahead and
Oh
describe your
my
project,
God.
and then we can talk about it.
So me, Ari, Alex, and I think Spencer also
yeah.
helped.
Jews.
Helped out too.
All Jews.
All Jews,
by the way.
except Alex.
Plus Alex.
Alex dressed up as Hitler.
Yes,
It was
Hitler.
terrible.
God.
I really didn't want to do this, and for some reason, Ari and also Jared,
For some reason,
they
I
were
don't
they
believe
were
that.
they were really really into doing World War II video with Nazis and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I really really didn't want to like dress up as a Nazi. I didn't want to wear a swastika. I didn't want to do all that stuff. I'm like, no, hell no. Like, I'm Jewish. I don't want to do that. But I ended up doing it.
Peer
and
pressure.
It was terrible, and I regret it. We put like a disclaimer in the beginning of the video. It was funny, but
Your mom was pissed, I recall.
my mom was pretty mad. She was like, "Why the hell are you wearing a swastika? Like, why are
Fair
you?"
question. Fair question.
And people were looking at us.
You
while
let me
we
explain.
were filming at a hiking place, and people
yeah,
were
receipt of
hiking by.
point. Receipt of point. You're
Receipt
in a
of
very
point.
public area.
Yeah, and people were looking at Alex dressed up as Hitler with a stash. And they were
Oh
like,
my God.
it was hilarious because we said somewhere in Germany, but we rolled up with a car that said California on the license plate.
Yeah.
And like he had like Vans on. It was like really really funny.
But if I recall, it was pretty well shot.
Yeah, yeah.
technically, it
I
was
really
good.
like film production.
The production value was up there.
Yeah, but I basically was asking Fuentes for it for a while now. He sent me with like a subject, Nazi video, FBI,
Oh, yeah.
please don't flag
Yeah,
this. Anyways, I just wanted to mention it. It was hilarious.
No, that was definitely a standout video. I think from your year, the videos that really stood out were that one for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
There's also, I don't know if you remember the one that the swim boys made.
The one that what?
The boys from the swim team.
Oh, with Robert and
Yes.
yeah. when
That
they were
was
really romantic.
That was raunchy.
I remember at the end, I did like a gouging. Who gouged the eyes out? From the story, the gouging
From
your eye. It was a whole theme. When you
Oedipus?
Yeah,
Oedipus
something
Rex?
like that. Yeah. So he like got like me or Ari or something gouging my eyes out.
Oh
something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. That was violent.
That was terrible.
Oh god, that was pretty
Anyway.
edgy. You guys were teenage boys, yeah.
It was like 2 years ago too. So it's like it doesn't. That's the whole thing with COVID. It doesn't feel that long because like
Oh, yeah.
I was only in college for maybe like less than a year on
Uh-huh.
campus.
Yeah.
Everything else like I was not on campus. So it just
Mhm.
feels like high school was not that long ago, which
Sure.
it wasn't. It wasn't too long ago, but it was. It's still. It
Mhm.
feels like a long time, but it's not really a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Anyways.
that's fair. That's fair.
Oh, I'm still hung up on that story. Anyway, Mr. Fuentes.
What
Yes.
is the meaning of life?
Oh,
What
meaning
is
of
the
life.
meaning of life?
Oh, easy question.
Speaking
okay.
of Nazis.
Speaking of Nazis, good heavens.
Good transition.
Thank you.
Oh,
thank you.
Well, okay. I really don't say this to be like a troll because you're probably going to predict what I'm going to say, but it really does depend on how you define meaning and life for that matter. Because if by meaning I assume you mean something like a purpose, like a reason to
Like, I
be
mean,
here.
like, we're all just, like, walking around in our meat suits, like, living our lives. But, like, what is, like, what's the mean? Like, what's the purpose that we have on this earth that you think?
Well, I mean, that's a tough one.
Is it to just like pursue pleasure and
I don't think so. That's
like,
the
what's his name?
That's hedonism, and which was just philosophical school of thought. No, I totally disagree with that. I don't think it's a pleasure principle purpose. Purpose is separate from pleasure, and I think actually that's a big problem that a lot of people today have. Is people confuse pleasure with purpose, or they assume just because something makes you feel good that you ought to do it. Yeah, that leads to all sorts of sticky situations. Okay, rather, this is the way I think about it. I think Albert Camus put it very well, the way he formulated the question. The infamous question of suicide. What is stopping you from killing yourself? Like, is there anything? Like, why not? Like, if there is no reason to live, if there's no purpose to life, then why not just end yourself? And that is a very macabre question, but I think a good place to kind of launch it. Well, what does stop us from killing ourselves? And you would say things like, well, faith, other people, relationships, seeking some kind of goal. Does answer your question?
Yeah.
The meaning of life is very much separate for everybody. I mean, for me to say this is the meaning of life and then apply it to you assumes so much. I would never do that. Anybody who claims to have the meaning of life to me is an idiot or a charlatan.
So you just got to find your own meaning.
Well,
in a sense.
I mean, you could even debate that. Like finding, like what do you mean by finding?
Yeah.
Like, is there a true Aaron that exists out in the world that's waiting to be
right here
uncovered?
Here he is doing the summer pod.
Yeah, doing the summer pod.
No, and it's true. And I remember in class I think you were talking about this, and you were like, "Oh, what's stopping you from just driving down the road?"
Yeah.
And just because, like, I think we've all thought about it. Like,
Yeah.
what's really stopping you from just cranking the wheel into oncoming traffic?
Yeah.
Like, when there's no
I would
barrier.
think about that too. Like,
but you never do it.
but imagine
But the thoughts,
Oh,
sometimes
it's so
there.
Some
crazy
do.
that you get into like an Uber or you get into like on a bus or with a friend driving. You're not the driver. Who knows? They could like have like a little glitch in their head and just
Yeah.
turn the
They're
wheel.
a
And
robot. Yeah.
it's just crazy to think how easy it is to just.
It's a sombering thought, and actually talking about existentialism for a second, to me that's one of the main utilities of existentialism is it helps prepare you for death by thinking about it. In our culture in particular, in America, I mean, we don't like to think about death or talk about death. It's a very taboo subject. It's a very grim one, and it's something that happens to everyone sometime or another. And I've noted that people get shocked when they realize, oh my God, I'm gonna die one day. Like I could just die. There could be an earthquake right now. One of those branches could fall and kill you.
That would be horrible luck. We do the podcast for 1 week at Oren's house and we die.
That's terrible.
But it's possible.
It's possible.
Unlikely, but
And it's a horrifying thought.
Anything could happen.
Anything, it could happen.
no, it is scary. And it's just, but I also think, because it kind of goes both ways. Like, I feel like that, it goes to show how, like, finite your time is here.
Yes.
And how, for lack, you're how irrelevant you are in the grand scheme of the universe. But
YOLO.
it also could be kind of motivating.
Very
Because
motivating.
it's like, well, you might as well just live your life, do as much as you can, see what you can see, and just live life to the fullest because it is true.
Yes.
That, you never know how long you have.
You only
here.
YOLO once.
You only YOLO once.
You only live once.
Elegantly put.
Yeah,
Elegantly
thank you.
put.
But I was also saying that I think my theory, I don't have anything to back this up with, but like once you die, I feel like all the knowledge comes to you, or like you understand how like
I don't have anything to back this up with.
Once you die, you're just like, oh, okay, like I was so stupid. That's like, but we'll never. I feel like we'll never be capable of knowing the meaning of life or any
I doubt
purpose like that.
Should we test your theory?
Oh, but perhaps there's meaning in the search.
Yeah.
It could
It's
be.
not the destination; it's the journey.
Oh my
To
god.
put it,
Daniel.
yeah. Well, that comes from Taoism, and that's not incorrect. I think.
Yeah.
It's not.
No, I think it actually holds a lot of truth. That a lot, and it's kind of like in school where it's like it doesn't really matter where you end up getting in terms of like what you end up learning in the end,
Correct.
or how you ended up learning it.
Correct.
And that's where the true value is in that process, because a lot of your skills you build is in the process getting to that end goal.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I mean that's for anything in life.
I got a really good transition.
Oh.
Speaking of life, where do you see yourself in 20 years?
Oh boy. Hopefully alive.
Hopefully,
Fingers crossed. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm happy at Cleveland now. I'm getting my master's degree, so who knows? I mean, if I ever feel like it, I could move up into higher ed.
Yeah. How is your master's? Like, what are you doing exactly?
So I'm at a master's program at CSUN, getting a master's in rhetoric and composition.
Wow.
Or like, and it's with an emphasis on how to teach writing. And I actually I finished my my thesis last semester.
Okay.
What was your thesis on?
Well, okay, so actually, this is something that might interest core kids in particular. Yeah. It was a very long, like 30-page analysis of timed writing assessments and how useful they are.
Oh, useful.
Yeah.
Very useful.
Very useful.
My conclusion was put very crudely, not very. What I found was, and what most research indicates, is that timed writing exams are not an accurate reflector of student knowledge or writing ability, at least in the way that they're traditionally administered. And the main reason why people do them, even though they're not all that effective, is because you're still expected to do them on standardized tests.
Yeah.
And they're easy to administer, and it's very hard to cheat on them.
I'm going to be honest with you. IUE's core taught me how to BS really well.
Yeah.
In college, I had essays that were due like the next day, and I'd have like all these other assignments that were way more important.
Yeah.
And in like an hour, I'd just type a whole essay up. I'd get like a great grade because I'm just good at writing now.
Yeah.
And I'm good at, I guess you could say, BSing.
So is there a value in it?
Yeah, I mean, well, and don't get me wrong, there is value in it to, exactly as Daniel said, to train you to write. And some kids need that pressure. They need that fire under their ass to like, oh man, I need to do this. So it's not like it's completely worthless. I don't want to give you that impression. I think there is value to it. However, I think it would be better to have different, like a variety of assessments, not just these in-class essays. And I had the insight of being a 9th grade and 12th grade teacher. Shocker, essay writing, in particular IUE writing, really did not change much from like students to students. Like a B student in 9th grade was typically a B student in 12th grade. Yeah, I saw very little difference.
For me, it was different because like for me, I wasn't like a great writer per se coming to core. That's what I was worried about. I was worried about like, this is a humanities school. I'm like not really amazing at writing or anything like that. How am I going to do well? But it takes you at like a gradient. Like it takes you like, step by step. And coming out of core, I'm like such a better writer. I have I have a great vocabulary.
You have a really good vocabulary.
I have a
it's an amazing vocabulary.
It's a gooder vocabulary. Way gooder than 9th grade.
Way more gooder. Way more better.
Way better gooder.
Yeah. No,
anyways,
and I definitely also I think I have the same experience.
Yeah.
There have been times where I've gone on my computer back to like my 9th grade, like Les Blanc essays or like Bless Me All's essays, and I'm like,
God.
yo, I literally put a rhetorical question in my intro.
Yeah.
Like my thesis was a question, like So I definitely saw that improvements.
Okay.
But
Oh yeah, and I mean it would be the and you're in tracks, maybe you'd appreciate this analogy, but it's basically like, how do you get people to run better? Just
run more.
Run.
Yeah.
So how do you write better? Just write.
Yeah. That's definitely true. But I also think, and this is kind of like, I think because when you say there should be like more ways to kind of test students, because I think testing by and large is kind of messed up how it's done in in high school. Like I always thought, this is always my theory, if I was like superintendent, it would just be like your final exam, or like the essays would just be like, you sit down with your teacher and you just have a conversation. And it's like a conversation about the material where it's like, okay, what's your opinion on this? Or what do you think about? And the teacher can ask you questions, and you're not worried about like multiple choice or fill in the blank, but it's literally based on just what do you know? And then you can also build like, your communication skills, your speaking skills, being able to like actually talk to someone and formulate your ideas. And then based on that, the teacher can kind of synthesize how well you actually know the information. It might be hard to do logistically, but.
Well, for a final, I think that would be very problematic in terms of the subjective nature of the instructor. But that is actually a good idea in terms of teaching students interview skills. I think it's not, I don't want to degrade your idea. I think it's a good one. I think that unfortunately it's not very practical.
Yeah.
Because consider how many students like I have.
That's what you said about my conspiracy theory club. I tried to start in 12th grade.
It's not very. Oh, I remember that.
It's not very practical. It could be problematic.
I don't want to lose my job.
Yeah, it never happened.
Oh my
That's
God.
why I started Checkers Group.
Oh, I remember that because your brother,
My brother
David was,
he started chess club.
Yeah.
And then so I wanted to start checkers club to get back at him for not making me the president. But then I didn't file the paperwork in time, so it wasn't a club, it was a group.
They're pretty strict about that.
Checkers group.
That's funny.
Yeah, and we did it for 1 week, and yeah, the checkers boards I printed out were like the wrong checkers boards. Like they had the wrong amount of like squares on them. Anyway,
I think my sister's I think she made a club as well. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's like an environmental one. She did it with LeConte.
Oh, LeConte.
Yeah.
I read on
Yeah.
Love that, man.
Anyways,
see any good movies lately? I gotta ask. Any good movies, TV shows?
Oh, shoot, what have I have to be honest with you. I don't watch a whole lot of movies or TV.
What's kind of like your entertainment source? Like where do you?
Yeah.
go
Do you
to?
play video games? Do you like?
Man, I haven't played video games in so long. Gosh, I mean, honestly, what I do for fun now is mostly just like
Read
read.
books.
I
Okay.
I love
That's fun.
walking.
Walking?
Walking is my favorite
Walking's
activity.
nice.
Yeah.
Walking and thinking.
Walking and reading in Sequoia.
I can't quite do that. I did go camping.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, how was that?
I was up in the redwoods. A lot of fun. Loved it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Love camping. And I have to say, LeConte is the one who really inspired me to take up camping.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I see his Instagram. He bikes so
Yeah.
far.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah, he has
to Washington,
like
yeah.
a hybrid, but or not
Yeah,
a
yeah.
hybrid. Like the wheels are thin.
Right.
The wheels, it's like a street bike, but he takes it up in mountains and he goes to
Yeah.
Hollywood and he doesn't
Wow.
he bike to. I think when I had because I had him in 9th grade, he said he biked all the way from his house in Hollywood to Reseda to Cleveland.
Oh yeah, no, he does. He right now. I don't know where he is right now. But as of a couple weeks ago, he's up in Washington.
Wow.
He biked through Oregon and Washington.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
That's so
up
cool.
there.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's
So
incredible.
I have to thank him a lot for really inspiring me because I didn't really do camping before that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was the one who was like, "Come on, Albert, like we're gonna go camping on the weekend." Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I
That's
don't know,
nice.
I don't know.
Oh,
I
that's
don't know.
really nice.
You know, he
that was a blast.
he inspired me to eat trail mix.
Yeah.
Because he in 9th grade he'd always just like
inspired
nibble
you?
on his nuts
Oh
on his
God.
nut sack.
Did he say that?
No. He would just eat all the
All the nuts.
all the nuts. The way he ate it, it's
Can you reenact how did he eat it?
he just go like I don't know like
Oh
with his,
yeah, he does do
with
that.
his mouth.
He does
he-
do that. Yeah.
I don't know, but like ever since then I always have those nut sacks handy from
Oh my
Trace.
God.
Oh boy.
Yeah. No, it's cool because like my family goes we go camping and I actually went backpacking recently.
Oh, nice. Where?
with Jared actually.
Oh, where?
Clouds of Rest in Yosemite.
Oh, right on.
Did you
Okay.
go to
Yeah.
Mount what was it?
Mount Baldy?
Mount Baldy.
That was
another
we
one.
did that as a
wasn't it?
training hike.
Yeah.
For Clouds of Rest, but Yosemite's beautiful and everything. But the thing about camping, I feel, is that if you grow up doing it and your parents take you to do it, then you do it. But I feel like for people who weren't raised doing it, it's not something you instinctively like. Oh, I'm gonna go camping. But unless you have someone
Right,
who brings
a
you into
guide.
it,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's cool. He kind of because didn't you also do Zion?
We did Zion, yeah.
And you did Angel's Landing.
And it is
Oh, Angel!
Oh.
That is a crazy
Hell of a
hike.
hike, yeah.
Right on the cables.
Oh yeah, that
Oh
was a
my
lot
God.
of fun.
Yeah, that's
There was a story that I brought up from the other podcast. It was like the first one. Remember the one that I told you the guy fainted and all that stuff? This guy was hiking also in I think it was Yosemite, and he was a patient that because I interned for a doctor, and the view is so beautiful. He got down on his knees to pray, and I guess when he got up too fast. He fainted, fell off a cliff.
Oh,
after praying to God, and then
it's crazy.
he woke up on like a patch of flowers. And
Wow.
and the only thing he had was like a fractured collarbone. That's it.
huh?
And
Yeah, tell me God doesn't exist.
God's got he's
God is
that's
dead.
just language.
he's got a sense of humor. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, but that was like the craziest thing I've ever, like the craziest injury I've ever heard about.
Huh?
Yeah, that's insane. I don't know how
Anyways.
you survive that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the views. I mean, especially now because a lot of the parks are opening back up. But now they're really
yeah.
busy.
Yes.
Like how busy was it when you went
The
recently?
Redwoods,
Sequoia?
very.
Redwoods. Yeah.
Yeah, but people all over the place.
Where is Redwood exactly?
So Redwood National Park is right by if you know where Crescent City is up in Northern California, it's right next to the border with
Yeah.
Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
you drive up there, like if you've ever been that far up north, you think like, Jesus Christ, this is still California. California's immense. Like you go past the Bay Area and you're like, this is still California.
still
Yeah,
California.
there's a lot of places in California that, I mean, since we live in like Los Angeles, everything's, city, all that stuff. But once you go to like the rural areas, you're
Yeah.
like, I can't believe this is still California. This is what it's not what you think about when you think about California. There's
Oh, yeah.
so much land that's just there.
Yeah.
Farms.
I mean, to give you an idea, where I was camping up in the Redwoods, the distance from there to San Francisco is pretty much the same from here to San Francisco.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
That's cool.
Yeah. That's far. That's far out, bro. Far out.
Far out, dude.
Yeah. That's cool. So okay. So you just read a lot of philosophy books.
I did bring one. I brought a Nietzsche book. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Daniel and I have been reading.
Yes.
We've been reading this summer.
We have been
you're
reading
doing
as
reading.
much as we can. I read this book called Astrophysics for People in a Hurry by Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty interesting because I'm kind of interested in. I just got really interested in space and all that stuff. I'm not gonna go into it. It's a lot, but
Space is the
it's just
place.
crazy to think about how small we are in this world, in this galaxy.
Oh, good.
This-
Yeah, you get a little cosmic scale. That's always humbling.
Yeah.
Yeah. You ever thought about writing a book?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I would write it on, but I mean, I feel like I need to carry on that tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely.
I definitely read it.
Yeah, that would be. I feel like if you're gonna write I just writing a book in general for me is just like a cool but kind of crazy idea. If it's about philosophy, do you think you would have to because I feel like you would have to have something substantial. To put out
to
into
actually get it published.
Yeah.
Do you think you're gonna make your own philosophy? Like, would you?
Oh,
was that a
no,
goal?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm hardcore enough for that to make up my own philosophy.
Yeah.
But I mean, what I would want to write about is a book on how to teach philosophy at the high school
Yeah.
level.
And I don't know if there are any books out there that do that.
What was Mr. Lid's book called?
So he has a couple books,
Yeah.
actually. His first book is A Teacher's Guide to Postmodernism, or A
Okay.
Teacher's Introduction to Postmodernism, sorry. And then his second book is Are We Animals Like All the Rest, Volume 1 and 2. And he's still writing. He writes essays all the time. He sends them to me. He'll email it. Read this, Albert. And he'll get mad at me if I don't read it within a week.
Yeah. No, I feel like that would be how to teach philosophy because, like we were saying, your teaching style is something that is memorable, and I kind of feel like it's something that should be applied to also other classes. Because the thing, I understand philosophy is something that's difficult and you want to make it engaging, but when you go from your class to then you go to your math class and then you go to your science class and it's just the same old lecture out of the book or off of a regular PowerPoint. I feel like teaching it really, especially nowadays, it needs to just be really engaging. I mean, it's kind of a lot to ask, but I just feel like it doesn't need to be. But I feel like the most effective way to reach students in this day and age is to make it as engaging for them as possible. But time and place, I guess.
I'm not going to get on my old man soapbox and be like, kids nowadays, they don't have any attention spans with their Instagrams and their TikToks. But there is something to be said. I think attention span, generally speaking, it's not diminished, but it's different. You guys are kind of on the cusp end of that, of a generation that imagine a generation of kids that were taught to use a smartphone before they learned how to read.
Yeah. My brother's 6 years old.
Okay, so
and he knows how to operate an iPhone better than my dad or anyone else, and he's just it's crazy because that's what they grew up with, and that's what they know, and it's crazy to me to they see a computer and they assume it's touchscreen,
right?
It's crazy.
Technology is moving faster than culture, and definitely faster than pedagogy or philosophy.
It almost feels like we're another
education.
generation where we're it almost feels like I'm a different generation than my brother, but we're not. We're still the same generation. It's just.
No, but I definitely feel like they're those gaps are widening.
Yeah, definitely.
Faster.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, so speaking of technology, many teachers teach in this very old school way of a lot of lecture. Here's work, do it, and that's just not going to cut it anymore. In terms of engaging students, it's just not going to cut it. Students will not want to pay attention. It can't pay attention,
and especially now on Zoom.
Oh boy,
it's
even
even worse
because
it's if you're sitting on on your Zoom class, and the teacher just kind of talking, and maybe you're not on camera, so there's not that you don't have those eyes on you in class,
right?
And then it just takes 2 seconds, just pull out your phone, and then before you know it, you're just scrolling on Instagram,
Yep.
Crazy.
and then you look up and you're like, wait, what are we talking about?
Yes.
And it's every day for a year. It's like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had a lot of insight from being a student myself at CSUN. I had online classes, and so I understood how easily one could get distracted.
Yeah, people could just put their earphones in and go on a walk or do whatever else they want to do while listening to class, and you don't get the same experience.
Exactly.
Your slideshows, I remember that's something that stuck with me. Your slideshows are really great because they're so. It's almost I don't know how to explain. It's like a movie. It's you don't know what's coming next.
You know, I make a script for it,
Yeah.
for every. I mean, it's not like this super detailed thing, but I have a
Like an
script
outline.
for every.
There's a very
lesson.
logical progression of
Yes.
what you do in
Yeah.
class. Yeah,
It's,
for sure.
It's rehearsed. So by fourth period, like I got it down. But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was fourth period.
Yes.
Yeah.
So fourth period was always me at my best.
Okay.
Because I was like fully awake. I'd already gone through it a couple times.
Yeah.
But as to your point with Zoom, yeah, it was miserable.
Yeah.
It sucked. And I mean, I made the best of it that I could in the situation. But I'll ask you, since you both had me as a teacher. But how would you describe my teaching style then? Like how would you describe my class and the way I operated?
Yeah.
In real
definitely.
life?
It's definitely engaging.
Definitely.
It's a lot of like you asking us questions, trying to make us think, trying to like provoke us. Not provoke us, but like you would kind of just say something and then try to get our opinions on it. I remember a lot. You would also you would do something. You would put up a slide. You run out of the classroom. I remember one time it was like free will, and it's like, what's stopping you from leaving? And then you just like.
I remember
you
Dustin.
left.
Dustin just left, and I followed him, but then I came back. But
Yeah, I remember you were like, oh, you have free will to leave this class, and then you left the class. So then some kids got up and left. Then you went. You left the school. He went outside the school, went around to the window, and then banged on the window really loud to scare us.
I remember we tried to lock you out. We tried to lock you out.
Yeah.
Was I with Spencer? I think Spencer did it as well, but like with me and my friends, we just locked you out of class.
Yeah, you just held the doorknob. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was definitely really funny. And I feel like every day with your class, I would, before coming in, it'd always be a surprise. I'm like, what is he gonna do today?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
we pulled out a saw once. I remember.
Oh, the saw.
Like a legit saw. Like he had someone in the front, like blindfolded.
Oh,
and he pulled out a saw.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's
Yeah.
right. So I have my props. So the way I teach it, if I could sum it up in a word, I guess it would be theatrical.
Right.
And because I see it as a performance, where with the live studio audience, that's the way I see classroom. And by the way, there's more than one way to be a good teacher, but that's kind of the way that I've stumbled upon it. Anyway, so over Zoom, as you might imagine, that was very difficult to do. And big part of it was because, obviously I can't see these kids. Most of them have their cameras off.
Yeah.
And I was a lucky teacher. I was very fortunate in that I never had a classroom where nobody had their camera on. And a lot of my colleagues complained a lot about that. And so I was always lucky. I always had I usually had a good number. I usually had about a third of class with their cameras on.
Okay.
So that's not bad. That's not bad. That's really good, actually.
Yeah.
But, you just don't know what the other kids are doing.
Yeah.
So very quickly I figured out, okay, because what some teachers would do is, like, pick on the kids that had their cameras off, like, just to check if they were there.
Yeah.
I didn't bother. Because I figured I'm just going to waste time. It's going to interrupt the flow of the overall lesson for the kids who are here and paying attention.
Yeah.
And as much as possible, I tried to incorporate media. All right, let me let you in, like, insight, like how the sausage is made, like how I make a lesson.
How the sausage is made.
Okay.
With Fuentes.
Okay. With Fuentes. When I make a lesson, the first thing that I think of, and you can laugh, I start with an incredibly stupid idea, like something just so absurd and entertaining, and then I build a lesson around that. For example, I really want to incorporate Dungeons and Dragons into my lesson somehow. How can I do that? And then I build a lesson around that. Or, I can get a dead cat from Mr. Hayes. Maybe I should.
What the heck?
Oh, that wasn't your year. That was the class 2020.
Yeah, we never got the dead cat.
Oh, yeah,
Dead
yeah.
cat.
We did Schrodinger's cat thought experiment, and I borrowed a dead cat that they use for dissections.
Oh, my
Wow.
In the anatomy department. And I had it in a box. You guys heard of the Schrodinger's cat paradox, right?
No, I don't think you.
No,
I
I don't think so.
I don't think I did that with you guys.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's a very famous thought experiment, but it's this thought experiment in quantum physics where the idea being like, okay, if there's a cat in a box and you can't perceive inside the box, you can't hear, you can't see, and there's a device that has a 50-50 chance of killing the cat, like exactly 50-50.
Oh, okay. I think I've heard this before.
So the cat, without being observed, is in a superposition of being alive and dead, which is logically incoherent. It can't be alive and dead.
Yeah.
But as far as you know, like that's what it is. And you only collapse the wave function, it's called, when you actually perceive. And so the idea being that perception affects the outcome in quantum experiments. Now I got that, and I used a dead cat. So because I had a box, and I didn't open it the whole period.
Yeah.
And people thought like, oh, he's got like a stuffed cat in there, like a stuffed animal.
Oh my god, that's
It's like,
terrible.
oh look, kids, looks like it was dead. I can't believe I didn't
And you
get
pulled
fired
out a
for that.
real dead cat.
I remember dissecting pigs. I remember Alex or like Ari or something. They like stuffed the pieces of a dead pig in a locker. It was terrible.
Oh, good heavens! I didn't know that.
But anyways,
So, oh my god, I kind of lost my train of thought. That was a really funny story. I really cannot believe I got away with that dead cat.
the dead cat. Yeah.
Anyway,
And that was your first year in doing philosophy?
no, that was my
That's class of 2020.
Third year.
Oh, third year. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, I was still figuring it out.
Okay.
But, so then so online, some of
Yeah.
the things I did on Zoom was I really tried as hard as possible to like, like engage with students in an online world. So for instance, especially first semester, they invited me to a Discord server they made, and so I was on them on Discord, and I was playing Among Us with some of the kids during like breaks. I'm terrible at that game, by the way, and just trying to do things in the lessons, like still using the PowerPoints,
Yeah.
changing them so that because I know that they're going to be doing it online. So I still had shit like jump
That's
scares.
great.
I still had jump scares. I
Yeah.
still had
I hated the jump scares.
And does it work well with Zoom? Like when you do the share screen?
I made it work.
That's good.
Because I could share the audio and everything, and teaching film was challenging for that reason.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Because figuring out a way to stream the films.
I actually really liked that. I mean, I had Dr. Cohen for it. It was actually really, because I really like film. It really made me appreciate cinematography so much more. And I'm really happy that you guys were able to teach other people who don't appreciate film as much.
Oh, yeah.
Like now people are looking at these films and like, oh, mise en scène or like motifs and all this stuff,
Right.
and it's very it's very good to teach other people how hard it is to make a film.
That's right.
And how cool it is. How every little, if you take a still, it could be like an art piece.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's a good film.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was hard to translate online like anything else.
Oh yeah, definitely.
As much as possible, I still tried like going to clubs, all via Zoom. Going to clubs, hosting office hours. I'd still get kids coming in and having like mental breakdowns.
They had Zoom clubs?
Yeah. They still had clubs. And
I didn't know that.
They met over Zoom, yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Video games are very popular, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
And just doing like online stuff, like just having an online presence. Like I got back on social media when I had been on for a while. I reactivated my Instagram account just to better keep in contact with students.
Yeah.
And so I mean it was fun, and the kids that did engage, and you just learned techniques like, okay, this didn't work, this worked better. Like some teachers turned off chat, for instance. I never understood that. Why would you turn off the chat function?
Well, maybe I don't know if people say something. Well, I don't know.
I trusted the seniors to like be okay, and don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, like and we would still have those moments, because I think some of the most fun moments I have is when kids say like outrageous things.
Yeah, which is funny.
It's just hilarious.
And
oh yeah.
So are you
definitely those moments?
Yeah. Are you going to be online next semester? Or are you going to be in person?
God, I hope not. As of now, fingers crossed. I mean, Delta variant notwithstanding, we should be in person. We'll be masked up probably, but whatever.
Yeah. It is what it is.
The plan is to be in person.
Okay.
You should get some funny like philosophy meme mask.
I am 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm counting on that. I've already got my Halloween costume picked out. I don't know if you guys are into anime at all.
No.
I watched the Death Note, and then
I'm
I
about a
watched.
Subaru. I don't know if that counts.
I have a Death Note, like an actual like Death
Oh,
Note.
really?
I plan to use that for a lesson too.
Have you ever seen The Great Pretender? I think we
No.
talked about it. It's you should watch it. It's on Netflix.
The Great
It's
Pretender.
amazing, amazing film, like amazingly shot in a way.
The Great Pretender.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my roommate from college, he kind of got me into like a few anime. Like he made me watch some stuff, but I don't really watch on my own. But yeah.
Well, I'm going to be a character from Naruto who has this mask. His name is Kakashi.
Oh yeah, okay.
He's one of Naruto's teachers. I thought it'd be appropriate.
That's cool.
Okay.
Cool.
So yeah.
No, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna ask, outside of teaching during COVID, how just was like the lockdown and just all that stuff for you? Was it kind of just like fine? Some people it threw them for a loop. I don't know how much it affected you really.
Me personally, it came in waves. Like some months I'd be totally okay and chill. Other months I'd be really itching to get social interaction. But I kind of approached it with a very stoic mindset. I basically just read a whole bunch and mostly just read and exercised mostly. It was almost like a monastic lifestyle.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. Oh, here comes the flex. How many books did I read in 2020? Like when the pandemic started, I read 27 books.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's more than
you
2
have
books a month.
You have Chads and Brads that talk about different things, like how many people they had intercourse with, and then you have
they do talk about that.
And then you have smart people saying how many books they read, and that's more important.
Yeah,
because you don't get STDs.
That's true.
You get knowledge.
It'd be very hard to get STDs from a book. I agree.
That's never happened.
You'd have to really try to accomplish something like that.
So yes, and then outside of teaching, any other projects you're working on right now?
Well, I mean, right now between grad school
Right.
and school, that's all my time. And then this summer I did traveling. I was in Mexico for a number of
Oh,
weeks.
that's right.
Yeah.
How was Mexico?
Well, amazing. I loved it. I haven't been down there in years.
Okay.
Not since I was your age, actually.
Oh.
And I loved it. It was great. Visited family,
Nice.
toured the state of Jalisco. It's like western Mexico.
Nice.
Like central
Okay.
western Mexico.
And were you born in Mexico or were you born in America?
I was born here, but
Nice.
my family's from Mexico.
Cool.
And yeah, it's just and it sounds weird to say, but sometimes like people, especially students, forget that I'm Mexican.
Yeah.
And that's like a really weird thing to say, but like sometimes like it does come up. They're like, oh yeah, Fuentes, you're fluent in Spanish. That's so weird.
So that's so weird.
It's so weird.
Yeah, like I remember when I taught ninth graders, like every year I could tell like what chapter in the book they were in when like a crowd of like ninth graders come up and Fuentes, you know your name means fountain. Spanish? Yes, child, I speak Spanish. I know.
That's funny.
That's really funny.
I learned Spanish for 3 years. Nothing.
Who'd you have, Palacios or
I had Miss Rodriguez.
Miss Rodriguez?
She just go, ay Dios mío, sé que pena, lo siento. Miss Rodriguez. I had Mr. Rodriguez, and then I had a summer class for Spanish 2.
Right on. Okay.
Mr. Rodriguez for Spanish 3.
Right on.
Oh,
Anyways.
Spanish.
Yeah.
I just
Funny.
and I never clicked. Never clicked for
never
me.
clicked.
I got an F. I got a D, then I got an F. In a Spanish 1 was fine. I got through that easy. And then Spanish 2, I had Miss Rodriguez, and I got a C first semester. Amazing. Then I got a D second semester. And then they put me in Spanish 3
Oh,
after I barely passed Spanish 2, so that was a complete train wreck.
qué lástima.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what
Ay
that
Dios
means.
míos.
Ay, Dios míos.
Me gusta comer niños chicos gordos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Daniel knows Hebrew.
I do know Hebrew.
That's
I'm
interesting.
fluent in
Oh, you're
Hebrew.
fluent in Hebrew. Okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
He was
Yeah.
trying to teach me Hebrew recently.
Yeah,
So I got to learn more, but
you do.
you want to give us a quick lesson before we sign off?
Etzba with finger. Batachat, which
Oh.
is in the butt.
God.
I say chocolate stick. That's what Mateus would always tell me.
Can you say it all together?
Oh, Mateus?
Mateus, yeah.
Yeah.
He just go, hey Daniel, etzba batachat, chocolate stick.
And what does that mean?
It means finger in the butt makes a chocolate stick.
That sounds like Mateus. We're talking about Mateus class 2018, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Mm.
Oh, does he watch does he listen to the podcast?
I don't know, but I hope so.
Do you want to hear a funny story about him?
Yeah, sure.
So this is back. So back when he was in 12th grade, he was going out with this girl, Amanda Warnick,
Uh-huh.
and I remember. I was such an asshole. I remember no, this is not my fault. In fact, I did the right thing. They were like making out, like full on, like eating each other's faces in the middle of E-Hall, like right at the entrance.
Oh.
And like people were just kind of awkwardly avoiding them, right?
That's
like,
so
okay,
weird.
let me just kind of like, they're just all in, in their own world, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm an adult. I should probably do something.
Yeah.
And so I still remember I got up right and they're not paying attention to anything. They're just macking out. And I get up right next to them and I just clap very loudly. Here, let me get the mic. You are in school. They look very startled, and then they got beat red and embarrassed. It's like they suddenly got self-conscious.
That's hilarious.
The PBA in E-Hall.
And
Yeah.
I walked away cackling, Mateus, fuck you, Fuentes. And then I used him as an example of the next period because we were talking about the gaze of the other. And I said, see, Mateus, you didn't feel self-conscious until you were
Oh
when
my
someone was
God.
looking at
That's funny.
That's so funny.
That's funny.
All right, well, anyway, I mean, it's past 11. I know you got to
is it?
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, I do have to get going soon. But are there any last minute questions? Anything you're dying to?
No.
I think this was a
think
good
we're
first
good,
episode.
yeah.
We'll definitely have you on at some point in the future.
Sure. I mean,
Again.
we kind of meandered, went through a bunch of subjects,
Yeah.
and if you
Yeah.
ever want to talk about something specific, let me know.
We will definitely. If you enjoyed this episode, guys, make sure you leave a like,
Yeah.
leave a review, say you love Mr. Fuentes, and we'll have him on again.
Oren, you want to come here?
Oren,
We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, many
Spotify,
more.
Apple Podcasts, YouTube, podcast.com, Google Podcasts.
Yeah.
Twitch, not on Twitch.
Not on Twitch. Not on.
No, I definitely think this was a great podcast, and
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to many more.
Thank you, boys, so much. I really enjoyed the conversation,
Yeah.
and it's nice. And if I can just say one final thing,
Of course,
before we
take your
conclude.
time.
It's so for me, it's so wonderful. It's such a gift to be able to see again kids that I knew since you were like this snot-nosed 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Like growing up, like really finding your
Yeah.
own way, and maybe you feel like you're still very immature.
Yeah.
But like you're figuring it out. Like you're very quickly, legally you're an adult, and you're very quickly figuring that. And to me, to be able to see that is a really wonderful thing. So I'm thankful that you guys
Yeah,
had me over.
definitely.
Appreciate
Well,
it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, and just because this really tickles me, shout out to the Burts, Sid and Will. If you're
Yep.
Shout
The
out, Bert.
podcast is finally here
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Fuentes.
So
All right.
Anyway,
Well, anyways, we're gonna do a traditional fist bump. We're gonna all fist bump each other, the same place,
you
same
gotta
time.
lean in.
like one fist.
And
One
we all
fist
have
bump.
to
Ready?
connect at the same time.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
All right, 1, 2, 3. All right.
All
That
right.
was
Anyway,
great. See you guys later. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you, boys. Bye.
Oh, the famous bye. Bye.